Folks, this is Dave Workman. Welcome to another edition of Workman Associates Cass County COVID Heroes. And today, these individuals would probably not think of themselves as heroes, but I want to give you my short introduction as why they are. If you look at what stands holding America's economy, it's small business owners like Mark and Patricia Hammons. And if you think it's easy, you take a look at the failure rates of not only those who try to get in, but now after COVID, the failure rates of restaurateurs is staggering. And so what I would like to do is introduce Mark and Patricia Hammons. Many of you know them. Many of you have eaten at their restaurants. But Mark and Patricia, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. And I just want to ask real quickly, could you give us maybe a 60-second background of how you guys got here and why you decided to live in Logansport?
Sure. Well, I'll jump in and then Patricia can follow up on me. So we just passed our 20-year mark on November 1st.
Wow.
That was a very fast 2 decades. Can't believe it. But in a nutshell, Dave, Patricia had worked already 20 years in the restaurant business and had expert operational knowledge in something. We were trying to raise a young family. And between her career with McDonald's and mine in healthcare, I was traveling all the time. And we could see that we needed to make some changes in our availability to our children and how that was going to go. And so we made the decision, we've got to do something different here. And so we began looking at all kinds of options. But I encouraged her, I said, you know, why don't we become owner-operators of restaurants? I'll work with you, we'll do it together. And, you know, once we made that consideration, the whole thing just started to gain traction. And I think within 6 months of that, we were down here in Logansport talking with the former owners of our restaurants and inked a deal, and here we are.
That's fantastic. How about you, Patricia? Anything on your end on that
Well, sure. And Dave, I would say thank you for acknowledging that we are small business owners.
Yes.
I think a lot of people, when they see the big arches, they forget that there are small business owners behind them, and just recognizing. And so we take that responsibility very seriously. And you know, we're independent business people. We give medical insurance. We take care of our guests, and I think appreciate your noticing that or acknowledging that. So Mark and I left the city of Chicago is really what we were wanting to do. I was born and raised in a small town. My dad was a hog farmer, and we were thrilled to get to come to a small farming community and out of the rat race. So I think we wanted to have more engagement with our kids and less of the big city stuff. So we're happy to be in Logansport 2 decades later, and for me, 4 decades with the McDonald's system.
Wow, that's fantastic, and we're very glad that you're here. So one of the reasons I want to have Mark and Patricia on was how difficult it must be running a restaurant during this COVID pandemic. Forget about how difficult it was before, but now. So what do you think the biggest change at McDonald's, in your McDonald's, with the onset of COVID?
Well, I think everybody has noticed the menu has changed significantly, and it was a necessary step. So at the onset, New York City was being severely impacted, and many restaurants closed, employees were sick. So both from the retail side, there were issues, as well as the supplier side in trying to source and deliver and provide all the products that we needed. So we had to simplify right away. What else would you say?
You know, the big thing, Dave, is when COVID started, you know, there was just so much uncertainty. And then when it started to reach critical mass, true fear, everyone was gripped by fear. So, you know, I think as we navigated our way through this, and I will say, being part of a big brand business, we have tremendous resources and support. But you know, it all happens right here on the ground in our local communities, where customers come in and order food and socialize and all those kinds of things. And so the uncertainty, particularly around our resources with employees, with customers, with everyone, when it began to hit critical mass, it was very difficult thing to try to keep everybody calm, try to keep everybody focused in on what we were doing. We didn't have a lot of answers, and it was so fluid. There was so many things going on at McDonald's. Obviously, with a big brand business like that, you have a lot of risk. And we didn't know quite where things were going to go, but we just embraced all of the safety requirements. You know, the book hadn't been written at that point.
Exactly.
We were following CDC guidelines and having daily calls with the corporation about what we should do, what we shouldn't do, et cetera, and you know, began that process.
The other thing that changed was PPE in the restaurants and a lot of the equipment things, and you know, making everybody feel safe.
So I want to kind of go back to what we had talked about. Why did the menu change so drastically at COVID? You know, and if it hasn't, when will it return to kind of pre-COVID menu?
Good question. So the reason that it changed, you know, Dave, as I said, this thing was so fluid, but we anticipated that we were going to have a shortage of resources within the restaurant. We had to anticipate that, but we knew well beyond that this is not affecting only our restaurants, but all of our supply chain people, the people that make our buns, the people that grind beef, the people that, the truck drivers, the whole logistics system. We knew that the whole thing would get impacted. As an essential business, we knew that we had to be open. We had to be able to serve fresh and hot food, but we wanted to be able to do that at a level that still offered speed and
Well, maintain the cleanliness standards, still
be able to do all these things with fewer people. So we took a hard look at the menu and began trimming some items off that would make it more streamlined in the restaurant, easier for us to be able to produce. And we took a pretty severe cut on our offerings, but in the long run, it really helped us to maintain where we wanted to be, you know, we didn't want to increase wait times because we had fewer staff that day. So it really worked quite well.
When you asked when will the menu return,
Right.
We're constantly looking at that, but there are still staffing issues. COVID is spiking.
Right.
I feel like things may never be the way they were. I think the whole consumer industry was very specific, individualized, and maybe we went too far. So we're considering bringing bagels back. We've not brought salads back or parfaits, but as things get, and probably next year would, you know, right now we're going through a spike. Maybe next year we look at some bagels. Chicago brought bagels back. So consumer demand as well as the ability to meet the demand effectively.
Yeah.
So
it'll be driven by consumers, you know, in the end.
So if pre-COVID was 100%, where do you think your menu is now? 60%, 50%?
Maybe 70?
Yeah, probably 70%. I think about a 30% trim on the number of items.
Okay.
And obviously,
where we've landed.
Yeah, we trimmed not the best sellers. So the mainstays are still intact.
Right. Okay. So what steps are you, first of all, let's talk about protection of the customers. What steps are you taking to protect customers?
So I'll talk about employees, you talk about equipment. So the employees, we've always had a standard of wash your hands every hour. And we've kind of amped that up, a lot more monitoring as well. We're wearing gloves. So every employee is wearing gloves, and at hand wash, those gloves are changed. Or if somebody picks up a broom, the gloves should be changed, hands should be washed and gloves changed.
Wow.
Other protective equipment, so the face mask is worn. We've always had, you know, the same cleaning solutions. I think we've really amped up awareness of cleanliness as well. If our lobbies are open, we have someone in the lobby that is just constantly monitoring and cleaning touch surfaces, and they have to document that. So every half hour,
Wow.
they're trying to circle the whole lobby and get everything done.
That's amazing. That you actually document it every half hour.
Yeah.
You have to.
Wow.
Just to, accountability and make sure the girls are doing it. We've closed the beverage bars. That was difficult, but customers have been very understanding about that.
And then, equipment, Dave, there in the restaurant, as you can imagine, there's a lot of high touch points. So door handles, all the things people would touch, you go into the restrooms, those things have to be sanitized very frequently, at a minimum every 30 minutes.
Wow.
With the panels.
Yeah, so we installed, like most businesses now, the plexiglass protection panels just to control, floating things that's part of the virus transmission process. So we've done all of that. In the lobbies, of course, as you know, when we got the initial information that we had to close, I made a quick run to Home Depot and I literally bought rope and I made up signs to rope off the lobby just to get us started with that. But then as we began to open back up, we had to follow social distancing guidelines and, maximum capacity issues, those constraints. So we had to block tables off, and it was a real process to determine how to do that and keeping people at least 6 feet apart. And then once a diner would use a table, the process to quickly get in there, disinfect everything, and then turn it over and make it available. So a lot of signage in the restaurants and those kinds of things.
In drive-through, we put the cashless device on a paddle. And so we can hand that to the guest and let them do it.
Right.
Touchless.
I know you have such a huge drive-through business. I was gonna actually supplement some of the questions I had here. I like to, Patricia, I think, made a very good point that's going to be applicable, I think, to all industries. I don't think we'll ever go back to where we were. I don't think we'll ever go back to exactly where we were. I know my business won't. And I don't think we'll ever go back. It's not going to be the new normal. It's going to be post-COVID, because you don't want to keep referencing the old normal, because I think that's gone. And I think it's amazing that you guys have done what you've done and be able to do it, because it's just fluid. It just change. It's changing daily. I think the governor put into some sort of new restrictions yesterday based upon counties. So it is a fluid situation. So your employees, first of all, approximately how many employees do you folks have?
Combined with the 5 restaurants, about 300. But we run right around 55 to 65 per restaurant.
So how have the employees been affected?
So initially, Dave, in Logansport particularly, we had the spike that happened at Tyson. And a lot of our employees here in Logansport, particularly at Logansport West, had family members that worked at Tyson. And so we saw that what was going on at Tyson was very alarming to us. And the risks associated with that, we made the decision that any employee who had a family member that worked at Tyson, we just furloughed them. And we had to pay them. But we did that to minimize the risk in the restaurant from getting an outbreak, and we just needed to avoid that at all costs.
See, I don't mean to interrupt you, Mark. You just said a really important point. People have to understand that you did not lay them off without payment. You furloughed them and you paid them during that time.
Yes.
Even now, so just this week, the schools are having a lot of outbreaks. And so we have 2 employees that got put on 14-day quarantine. They're teenagers. They're still going to get paid.
Wow.
So, I don't know what they do necessarily with their checks, but that helps to waylay one of their worries. When we had all those people quarantined and we put them on furlough, we also provided some education to say, what does it mean to be quarantined? And so some of them don't have a lot of resources and needed help getting food. So Mark and I we did some grocery shopping for them as well. We took them food from the restaurants. So just trying to help them stay home, get supplies they needed. So it was a super stressful time, but our team did pull together. We actually had to also limit our hours of operation. So I think we started closing maybe 2 hours early, just because we had so many people out with COVID. And then we're, running around delivering food, and we delivered it. Some of them are big families. So we would, take 2 bags of McDonald's food.
We
and
pull up in the car and open up the back and grab bags of groceries and hand off. Of course, we didn't want to get too close to what was going on, but these families needed that kind of help.
Oh, that's a fantastic story. I mean, I know you guys pretty well. I've never even knew that. I mean, that's a fantastic story. Not a story, but that's just, and that is the essence of a small business owner. So many things that people have no idea what's going on. Idea.
That's not something that we could ask our employees to do, nor would we have, but it was an honor to do that. And you know what, when it's like they say, when America is at its worst, we become our best.
That's right.
And when these kinds of things happen, you just do what needs to be done. But when you look in the rearview mirror, at some of the things that have happened, it's kind of a neat thing.
Yeah, for our regular customers, they would recognize that we have had some employees for 20 years. So since Mark and I started, and so they're like part of your family. And when they need help, you step up and help. When we've needed help, they've stepped up. So
that's very cool.
It was a privilege.
Very cool. What's happening with the lobby openings at your McDonald's? And when you address that, are different counties different? Because you have properties in different counties. Do you have different rules and regulations for different counties?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have 5 restaurants operating in 4 different counties. And you were right, Dave. They are all different. Cass County obviously had the highest number of cases and was the most severely impacted out of the 4 counties in which we operate. But within our restaurants, I think it was in mid-June that we opened up McDonald's East. And I think that was the first McDonald's restaurant in the state of Indiana to reopen. And
the lobby.
The lobby,
yeah.
Yes. And we worked very closely with McDonald's and our county health department and, all the powers to be, and kind of became the model store, if you will, on how to do it and how to do it effectively. We did not reopen McDonald's West, and in Lafayette, with the university crowd there, we have not reopened that lobby, but the Monticello and the Delphi lobbies are reopened. And so we'll maintain that unless, the outbreaks and the situation dictates a different decision. As you mentioned, the governor did create some changes yesterday to, caution what was going on. But if you go around the state and into the major metro areas, there are many of the McDonald's and other type similar restaurants, quick service restaurants, that have not reopened their lobbies. They're still open for takeout, but they have just not reopened their lobbies yet. So I think we kind of got out in front. We did that because, the social aspect of what McDonald's offers in smaller communities like ours is really important. And our customers wanted that, but we knew that we would not do that until we could do that in a safe manner. So we're not in a big hurry to change things. It's just going to be determined by what happens with the virus here.
I think West Lafayette, Tippecanoe County, has had the toughest regulations, and they want us closed at midnight and then closed at 10, and there's still people going back and forth to and from work at midnight. So they adjusted that regulation. But through this, Mark and I were regularly in contact with the 4 different health departments, and Cass County was very supportive. But it almost felt like they were learning from us as well as we went along, trying to inform and communicate standards, regulations.
So you're paying people that aren't working. You're cutting your menu down. The financial side of the business, how has that been?
Well, initially, Dave, I will tell you, it created some panic. So at one point, just in Logansport here, with the people that we had furloughed, as I had talked about, we were at one point, about 40% of our employees were furloughed and still on the payroll. And, that's when the whole talk of PPP was being thrown around in Washington about, what are we going to do to help businesses here? And in all honesty, while we were well afloat, you didn't know what was going to happen. You didn't know what the next 30 days was going to bring.
Our West Lafayette restaurant, because they closed Purdue at our peak time. Normally March, April are our busiest months at that campus store, and COVID hit and we immediately went down by 60%. People just left, students went home. So we were a little bit panicked about that. And, we pay rent and service fees, advertising to the corporation. McDonald's allowed us to defer rents for, at least 90 days. So they put some things in place knowing that this might be a struggle. But I think Mark and I think because of the brand and the reputation, we knew we'd be okay and we'll survive. So what we really did was met with our employees to say, how are you doing? What's happening with your family? With, just educating them about what the state did with them being able to delay their rents, delay their property taxes. So we went through those guidelines that the state developed to help families. It's a great brand that we have the protection from. So we knew we'd be okay, and we are okay. West Lafayette, they're almost back to where they were. The other stores, the drive-throughs have, picked up business. So God's blessed us immensely our whole lives, and this has been no exception.
Just to tag on to what Patricia said, with the corporation, when all of this really started to gain hold, I think McDonald's, along with us as independent franchisees, we decided, this is a time to lead. And it's incredible that the company worked very closely with the CDC. Currently, we're partnering with Mayo Clinic. The company is, just to validate our processes, our procedures, particularly around sanitation and virus transmission. So they have done a great job. We had daily conference calls with the company in the beginning, just to talk about what was happening, what were the counts, what changes do we need to make, what's going on in your restaurants, what do we need to do. There was a lot of best bet sharing, a lot of really critical information that was shared, and we all got to do this together to make decisions at that time. So I'm really proud of the company, and I really honestly feel like they did take a leadership position in this.
You mentioned probably the biggest thing I gleaned from this, a couple of things, just how difficult it is running a business in multi-counties. I can't imagine. But secondly, all the education, all the things you did for your employees, while 60% business is down and 40% of your people are furloughed. I mean, that's unbelievable. In late April, you did a thank you meal for the workers, I understand. How many meals? What was the response?
The response was huge. So they loved the thank you, and there was a little note, and we did put it in a Happy Meal box. It was thousands. I don't have an exact number, but that was one of those that nationwide, we all wanted to say thank you to the people who really put their lives on the line. And I mean,
that's a true statement, Patricia.
Yes.
We didn't know they were putting their lives on the line.
Yeah.
We don't take ourselves too seriously. We want to have a great Big Mac sandwich, but those people are putting their lives on the line, and it was I think it was one of the most proud times for Mark and I.
Yeah, for us, because I mean, it happens in our restaurants. But from a nationwide perspective, we did this all across the country, and there were millions of Happy Meals that were given out.
Thank you.
We did breakfast meals, and we did, rest of day lunch meals, dinner meals. And, so for the police and the firemen and the ambulance drivers and the hospital workers and all of those people, they just really felt supported, and it was a great thing to do.
Wow.
As a business, it gives you great pride to be able to do something like that on a scale in which we did it.
It's interesting. It's really refreshing to hear of a big corporation having a soul. That really cares about more than the bottom line. That really means a lot to the small communities and America. You were talking about tough times, Mark. I mean, I've always heard that tough times don't create character, it exposes it. And it seems like your character has been exposed even more so during these tough times, and actually the character of your firm, McDonald's.
The thank you meals were actually born out of small community operators, because most of us had done something for our frontline workers before the national thank you meal. So it is the fact of small businesses and the way Mark and I and tons of operators across the country just take care of their community.
Yeah, it really was driven from ideas from people like Patricia and I and the corporation paying attention to what's going on. And, obviously, the reaction was, we got to do this on a grander scale here. This is fantastic. It's the right thing to do. And that's how it happened.
Well, I tell you what, I just want to thank you so much. I mean, I think I'm pretty astute about what's going on in business. Had no idea all the things that were going on. And it's just really interesting how each small business owner has done what they've needed to do to protect their people and to move forward and to get to the other side of this valley. So Mark and Patricia, thank you very much. I know how busy you guys are, and I appreciate you guys taking some time to do this.
Hey, Dave, before you sign us off, I just want to say how much Mark and I love our community.
And also, Dave, I would tell you, God bless you for doing this.
Yeah.
I think that the perspective that you're sharing through these videos like this, it's just so needed right now, and it really helps people to understand. It just increases the understanding about what's going on, and I think it's genius what you're doing, but it's really appreciated, and it's a great service to the community.
Well,
so thank you for this.
First of all, Patricia, you can't fake passion. And when you guys talk about being here, it's not from a script, it's from a heart. And Mark, you're more than welcome. And here's why you guys are great, is because you're not afraid to say from whence your blessings came. That and you guys have always made that a priority in your life. So thanks so much. I look forward to seeing you around. And for folks out there, this is Dave Workman from Workman Associates. We've been very happy to have Mark and Patricia Hammons, owners of small business, McDonald's, 5 of them, and people who have made a great impact in our community. So we'll talk to you soon, Mark and Patricia.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.